to just to say that the Paiwand account is actually mine. I've logged into another laptop. But yeah, welcome everyone. My name is Ramzia, and I'm a mental health counsellor working in Paiwand Afghan Association. I've got Dr. Farooq, who is the manager, advocacy manager. And we work with refugees and persons seeking asylum, and also migrants and anybody who is a descendant of a migrant. So I've got a, I think it'll be nice to just quickly maybe hear where everyone is from, if anybody, if that's okay, just maybe one-liner. Yeah, just one-liner to see who, if you're comfortable to share where you're from, I suppose. Who would like to go first, or shall I pick, or don't want to pick?
I'll go first. Hi everyone, I'm Arti. I have a bit of a strange...
Arti, I can't hear you. Sorry. Oh, that's a bit better.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Arti. I am a GP by background, but I'm doing a big project at Northwick Park about improving care for adolescents. Yeah, that's my brief summary.
Zoe?
Hi everyone. Oh, I haven't spoken in a while. Hi everyone, my name's Zoe. I'm one of the senior clinicians in the Harrow Mental Health Support Team.
Thank you.
So we're based in schools. We're quite a new service.
Okay. Evie, I think.
Hi, I'm Evie. I'm a social worker in Rooks Heath School through Harrow Council. It's a project that's been running for about a year.
Priya.
Hi, I'm Priya. I'm the Children's Services Commissioning Manager for 0 to 25-year-olds at Harrow Council.
Thank you. And I think we've got somebody, a Mason. Tell me if I'm saying it wrong.
Hi, sorry, my name's Abigail. It's just come up as that. Thank you. I'm a social care assistant for leaving care within Harrow Social Services.
Okay. And we've got Amy, who is a senior clinician at Harrow Horizon. Thank you. And we've got another person, SS. Sorry, I don't know your name.
No, that's fine. So I'm Saffron, and I'm a Programme Delivery Manager at North West London CCG for the Harrow Borough.
Thank you. Okay, so it's nice to meet you, and I think we may have worked with you and with your organisations. I recognise some organisations. So I've got a presentation that I'm doing. Hopefully, I'm not going to kill you with it. I've got some exercises that we can sort of break it on. So I'm going to share the slides. And does that come through?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. So really the main aim of this workshop is to bring awareness to complex needs of people seeking asylum, refugees and migrants, and also appreciate the multiple traumatic experiences faced by this group, and then understand the importance of trauma-informed approach when supporting this group, to ensure that there is a sense of belonging that can be cultivated. And then lastly, we'll look at how to actually go about fostering that sense of belonging within that group. And just to start off with, just some definitions so we're all on the same page. Refugees are people who have been forced to leave their country in order to escape war, persecution and natural disaster or other reasons as well. People seeking asylum are people who have left their country as a political refugee and is seeking asylum in another. The difference between, the difference between the refugee and people seeking asylum really is the process. People seeking asylum are claiming asylum, and then refugees are people whose asylum application has been processed. And unaccompanied minors are also known as separated children, are generally defined as foreign nationals or stateless people, persons who are below the age of 18 arriving on territory of a state unaccompanied by a responsible adult. Right, so I've got some pictures that I want you to look at and perhaps just give me shout out, what comes to your mind when you see the following pictures. I've got this. Would anybody want to share, or you can share it on the chat as well if you like. What is coming? What is jumping up for people? Does anybody want to share?
See this gentleman on the right side here with something eating. He seems very hopeless and hopeful. He hoped something good happened to him, but he think not very hopeless at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? A group of people here on the right, on the left?
I guess I'm just thinking about the way that refugees are portrayed in the media, and that actually any one of these people could be refugees, but this is what we see most commonly in the media.
Yeah, that's exactly the point I was trying to make. But yeah, I mean, the people on my right are, two white people who may not, traditionally may not be recognized as a refugee or a migrant, but actually the lady is Spanish, so she coming into the UK would be a migrant, or would be a migrant really. So that's just an exercise, and I'll come back to this maybe right at the end. But also as well, just I think Laila touched upon this, unconscious biases, and these are learned assumptions and beliefs and attitudes that exist in our subconscious mind, and they're sort of like a shortcut for processing information. Like you said, Zoe, what we see in the media is what we feel that refugees and migrants and people seeking asylum look like, but actually any one of them can be. And so Dr. Farouk, you talked about the man who is sitting there with a plate. I mean, who knows, this might be a surgeon, in their country, but actually he's sitting there, feeling hopeful and maybe mixed feelings. So, to be aware of those, and the only way we could actually become aware of those, because they're so subconscious, is to actually bring them up into our conscious mind. And there's lots of biases, lots of the ones, there's lots that I could have listed, but I've just listed some, gender biases, men thinking a certain way about women thinking a certain way about men, ageism, name biases, sometimes foreign names. When we look at applications, foreign names may stick out and you may have a perception about them. Beauty biases, confirmation biases. Confirmation biases is usually looking for something that would confirm your perception. So it's a very biased view of what you're looking at. So lots of biases. Now I've got a little exercise. I wonder if you have a pen with you. Just if we can spend maybe like 3 minutes on this. It's a very quick exercise. It's called Trusted 10, and I'd like you to, without thinking about it at all, list 10 people, or you could list 5 people, whatever you like. List their initials, and I don't want these to be family members. I want this to be people who are around you, but not family members. And so if you can put their names, and then we'll go about the gender, the race, the age, the sexual orientation, education, disability, and marital status. If you could do that, maybe let's give you about 3 minutes. And I'll come back to what the actual point of this is. Right. I think maybe another 2 minutes. So I don't want to rush you because I'm going to rush you in the next slide. Right, and then we'll give another 1 more minute. You won't have to share this, but this is something that I'd like you to perhaps take away and think about. So I'm slowly going to ask you to perhaps come back. It's okay if you haven't finished it. Maybe you could do this a little bit in your own time as well. But really the point is to have a look at that table and see how similar or how different your group of people that you surround yourself with is. If you're finding that you're surrounding yourself all the way throughout with a particular gender or a particular race or age or sexual orientation, perhaps that could show you, if, it may show that you may have some unconscious biases that perhaps you need to explore a little bit about certain groups. And I suppose to something to take away perhaps is, if you really want to go one more step further, is to actually find somebody who's a bit different to this group that you have surrounding you, and just connect with them and maybe just ask, what is life like for you? It's just I think a good way of connecting with somebody who's very different and understanding life from their perspective perhaps. So I think the next slide would be, and really just, I want to touch base on the fact that we as human beings, sorry, I've got this, this picture thing that's up there. So what I'm trying to really make a point of is that human beings are multi-dimensional human beings. We're multi-dimensional. I think sometimes we forget that when we see a woman or a man, they are just that, but actually everything else comes into play. There's a physical dimension, there is an environmental dimension about what makes them feel safe and what gives them security. There's a social, cultural dimension about what makes them feel loved and belonged. There is an emotional and also a spiritual, intellectual dimension. So we're not one dimension, we're actually 3D and different, a whole multi-dimensional human beings. And there might be different needs, and if you notice the physical dimension, the physiological, the safety, these all correlate to the Maslow hierarchy, and so I think I'll touch on this a little bit in the belonging slide that I have. But the next exercise, which I want to keep you on your toes, is to give you another way of connecting with somebody who is perhaps leaving or fleeing their country of origin. So let's say that, and this exercise is called Pack Your Bags in 2 minutes. Let's pretend that you are a young person who is a translator in, I've picked up Kandahar, which is probably the deadliest place to be at the moment. You have extended family, you have been working as a translator in Afghanistan for the foreigners or for the outsiders, and soon the word spreads in the neighborhood, and you are perceived as somebody who's turned on their religion and sold their land. So you and your family are being harassed every day until it escalates and you have to leave. Now, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, to actually pack your bags and leave. So I will give you 2 minutes and it starts now. Now we've got lots and lots of things that you can put in your bag, but your bag is probably like a 20-litre. It's not going to have a lot of space, but try and see if you can, what would you take? And I think I've got a, so I'm going to share actually a link here, which you could use. Hopefully, I've got a link.
Ramzajan, they cannot hear you.
Can you not hear me?
Now it's okay.
Okay, sorry. So I need is going to be right. So I've got a link up there. If you can go on there, and it's going to ask you for a number. It's a very quick way of just clicking 4 options, four sort of items that you would put in your bag. So I've started the time. Please let me know if you have, everybody's connecting. So if you're connecting to this, you're probably going to have some results on there soon. Yeah, is everybody finding it okay, or is there something that's not working? Okay, great. Phew, it's working. Right, you have another 1 minute. Oh, anybody who has not voted?
I haven't voted, but for some reason the number that I'm typing in is not.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I can just watch everyone else.
What would you pick, Zoe?
I think yeah, initially it would be the kind of care needs like food and hygiene products and things, but then I was thinking that actually when you long term, some of the other things that you need are things like a passport and birth certificates and things like that, and I don't think in a fight or flight situation that's what I would be thinking about.
Okay, so I think that's everybody done. And so I think a lot of people, as we can see, many have, phone chargers, passport, food and clothes. And then we don't actually have anybody voting for work contract or a birth certificate or evidence of danger, no hygiene products, no wallets, education certificate. Okay. So if I go back to this, really, I think some of the essential things that people who seek asylum come in here for, actually, they're not going to pick up, like the work contract or the evidence of danger, because these are the things that they will have to produce in their application for their application to be successful. And so, a lot of people who are seeking asylum, specifically from countries like Syria or Afghanistan, which I've seen, or Sudan, a lot of them are stuck in a very vicious cycle of no evidence. So they put in an application form, no sufficient sort of evidence, and so they're, and then they have to reapply and reapply. And so that really just adds to the whole situation of not having a home. They don't feel settled because there is no home. It's only when they usually get their refugee status is there a sign of relief to some extent. Okay, and so I will quickly move on to a triple trauma paradigm, which I usually use. And so a refugee, a migrant, and a person who's seeking asylum, really they're coming with with these sort of traumas. And as we said, as I said, you know, when you're looking at somebody who's a refugee, it might be a man or a woman, but actually we don't see these things. And actually this is behind everything. The trauma that is before the journey, which has sort of force them to flee, the trauma that they sustain during the journey, and also the trauma that they there's sort of ongoing on a daily basis when they arrive at their place of destination. So traumas before the journey can be oppression, discrimination, torture, or targeting. And then during the journey, it's usually sort of, it's not just trauma to themselves, but also as well the trauma that they see for other people, whether it's violation, sexual harassment, abuse, killing, all of this they bring with themselves. And then the trauma that is after the journey. So the re-traumatization that they go through, the legal system, the age assessments are usually talked about a lot in my sessions, and just the immigration and everything, and just the whole process of migration in itself is quite traumatic. So when you see a refugee or a person seeking asylum, you might see the one dimension that you're seeing from, but actually there's a lot going on for them. And so understanding that, there is a stereotypical sort of view of refugees at the moment, they seem to be difficult people, they seem to be uncivilized people, but actually it's their trauma that's being manifested. And so sometimes we forget that these are also humans who are actually, have sustained so much trauma. So trauma can itself, I'm sure everybody knows, it can actually affect your attention, your memory and cognition. They might not turn in for their appointments. It's not because they don't want to, it's because they keep forgetting, or they're not organized, or they're not able to process information, and it interferes with their effective problem solving, and it results in frustration and anger and anxiety as well. And so the importance of a trauma-focused approach is really understanding that it's the trauma that's affecting their brains. It's the physical and the mental effects of trauma that sometimes we as organizations see, and a trauma-focused approach would be to look beyond what's happened to them, really, and it offers survivors a chance to rebuild connection and trust that were fractured, and really that's really about the relationship and that sense of belonging, which I'll touch on, and the fact that all experiences are valued. There is not one experience that is not valued when we are sort of conversing. And so a little bit about what belonging is, I suppose, and belonging is really a feeling of affinity with the place. And if you think about refugees and persons seeking asylum, they've actually lost a lot of that. They are sort of in an open space where they're not finding any sort of belonging to anything. And so belonging is a feeling of affinity with a place, a group, or an organization, that is about having a secure connection with a group of people. I've not edited that. So a need to belong helps people to experience companionship and acceptance through family, friends, and other relationships. And usually for refugees and asylum persons seeking asylum and migrants, that's less for migrants. But for refugees and persons seeking asylum, that's really quite difficult. They usually are separated from their family, or they come in with nothing at all. I had one person who lost their phone. That was the only thing that they had while they were journeying through, and he had all his numbers of his family on that phone, and as he was running for the lorry, he lost that phone, and so now he is struggling with it because he has no absolute any connection to back at home. And so there is this feeling of emptiness, so it is a bit difficult. It's a lot difficult. And so belonging to a group, we feel as if we are part of something bigger and more important than ourselves, and I'll touch a little bit about what that actually means. this is, I'm sure you're all familiar with the Maslow's hierarchy. Really, belonging is a fundamental part of the human, and it's, you know, that we are sort of hardwired for it. And research actually shows that we crave interaction in the same region of our brain that we crave food, and we experience social exclusion in the same region of brain that we experience physical pain. If you think about it, that's really, really big. And so refugees and persons seeking asylum who are not able to integrate into the society at large, you know, they're actually feeling physical, as you know, a physical sense of pain, really. And the reason why belonging is so really important is that because it is a bridge, I feel, between a surviving stage and a thriving stage. We usually, when, you know, when people are able to find their people, their tribe, as they call it, you know, that's when they start thriving and they start moving up, you know, this Maslow's hierarchy of, you know, the self-esteem and actually self-actualizing themselves. And this is why it's really, really important. So I've got another place that I would like you to share. You know, what gives you a sense of belonging? I'd like to hear from everyone, if possible. If you could log into a link that I've posted just now. It's a Jamboard. I think if I stop and perhaps go on to there, if you guys can go on there. And we can see, I think, and I'll give, and I'll sort of share why I feel this is a really good sort of point. What the point is that I'm trying to make. So I've got myself. I wonder if you are able to get on there. That's it. Is, yeah, feeling seen. Yeah. Yeah. Feeling appreciated. Yeah. Family, shared experience. Yeah. And I'm just going to separate that. Yeah. Having someone to turn to. Yeah. Yeah. I think maybe one more minute for everybody to share. Yeah, food. I think we tend to forget food is not just food. Food, there is something, usually implicitly food is a symbol of love, really. You know, when you're sharing food, you're actually sharing love, I've heard. Oops. Yeah. Okay, so if we, I mean, I think everyone can see Post-it notes, and really, you know, feeling seen. A lot of them are actually, you know, if we can, a lot of them are basic needs. A lot of them are then moving up the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, with the I think there's physiological, and then there is emotional, and then there is love and belonging. So a lot of these are actually, you know, the higher you go, the more we can see the family is there. Yeah, so feeling understood for our worldview. Yeah, acceptance. I actually did a social media calling for this, and being seen and understood and respected for the differences came up top for in that poll. So I'm going to go back to my slides, if that's okay. Sorry, I'm a bit all over the place. Right, I think I've got it here. Yeah. And so what can we cultivate how can we cultivate a sense of belonging for others? And I've got this, and I know that what was shared was actually a lot of this. Being recognized that the behavior problem could be related to trauma-related anxiety, for example, addressing basic needs, food, a lot of food came up, giving choices to people, especially people who have experienced trauma. It's very important to give choices, anticipating different situations and provide additional support as organizations, preferring those at high needs for further assessment and support. And I think it's really important that when we are as organizations feeling, out of our depth, to actually get that person, the correct support that they require. Providing written resources in language best read by the individual. I think that's one thing that usually comes up, because language is one of those things that really has a traumatic effect for a lot of refugees and persons seeking asylum. If they're not able to express themselves, that can be really traumatizing. It can be re-traumatizing in itself. So I think as organizations and as a community, it's really important that we, people who are coming to us, they're actually able to be seen. If we don't have language, we can't express ourselves. And if we can't express ourselves, we can't be seen. And so it's really important. And it's also got to do with a lot of involvement. If you are not understanding, I have a lot of people who come through who don't know why they're there. It's because a translator was not there to translate for them, and so they're pretty lost why they're there. And I think it's a human right, really, to understand what's happening to you. So being sensitive about that, it brings a sense of inclusivity, for the individual as well, that they're being involved in something that's got to do with them, really. Remaining curious. I think there's a difference between being nosy and being curious. Nosy is just fishing around for lots of, personal and information that might not be relevant. And curious is, really trying to understand that person from their sort of perspective, respecting cultural and religious differences, which came up a lot for us on our social media. Help building trusting relationships. I think relationships with the trauma, usually the trauma is interpersonal. And so relationships are what will actually heal and really give that person a sense of belonging, to actually build those trusting relationships. And in order to be able to do that, I think being genuine and being respectful and giving people dignity, that's what they need from that relationship. And you'll find as an organization that if you're able to give that to the individuals, then their engagement also as well really improves as well. They're able to really engage because they're able to be seen. And inviting opinions and perspective into conversation, again, is about including people in them and engaging in purposeful storytelling. People like telling their stories. Okay. I've got a 52 seconds, but really my last slide was this quote: perhaps we're all immigrants, perhaps trading one home for another. First we leave the womb for the air, then the suburbs for the filthy city, and in search of a better life. Some of us just happen to leave entire countries. And I think linking my first slide to my last slide, it's really understanding that person in their essence as a human being. Refugees, person seeking asylum, migrants, man, woman, they're all really labels, and to really connect with people in their essence is really what will give them a sense of belonging. I'm really sorry that we're running out of time and we don't have any time for questions, but I hope you found this useful. Thank you.
Sorry,